Israel's new government came into office saying it would reassess policy towards Ukraine, and Foreign Minister Eli Cohen declared that Jerusalem would, quote, speak less on that issue. That, plus Cohen's phone call last week with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and that was the first such discussion between the country's top diplomats since the Ukraine invasion began, reportedly irked Kyiv and led them to delay a first phone call between Cohen and Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba. Now, the core of the discord between Jerusalem and Kyiv is Israel's unwillingness to supply Ukraine with aerial defense systems that could provide its cities with better protection against the Iranian-made explosive drones being supplied to Russia. Earlier today, I spoke with Ukraine's ambassador to Israel, Yevgen Korniychuk, about his assessment of the new Israeli government's initial steps regarding the Ukraine-Russia war and what he hopes to see from Jerusalem going forward. Ambassador Yevgen Korniychuk, thank you for joining us again on I-24 News.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. Now, it had been reported that the Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen would be speaking today with your foreign minister. It looks like that call has been delayed. Can you speak to that? And also reports that Ukraine was less than pleased both with Minister Cohen's statement that Israel was going to talk less on the Ukraine issue and the fact that he spoke with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov last week.
Well, first of all, it is true that the phone call is supposed to be scheduled for today, and it didn't happen purely for technical reasons. We are in war, and the situation is changing on the field drastically. As an example, I'll tell you, for example, as unannounced visit of two presidents of Lithuania and Poland yesterday that was not pre-announced. So the minister is supposed to go to Lviv, so he was not in the office. So today was a similar thing, but the phone call is scheduled for the next week. I'm sure it's going to happen.
And Ukraine's, again, reaction to the fact that Minister spoke with Foreign Minister Lavrov after the previous government had not done so.
That was not very promising, of course, for us. But again, we think it's too early to judge, and we will try to keep the dialogue on a friendly basis and to explain what the priorities are. And of course, speaking to Lavrov for us is, again, less than the pleasant experience. I learned from the reports of the Kremlin that Lavrov demanded even to start cooperation on the level of the Intergovernmental Economic Commission, which is completely unacceptable, for us. But again, the decision has not been taken, and this is the first steps of the Israeli government. We will give it a chance, and we will work together in order to establish the better cooperation between our countries.
Now, I should note, Foreign Minister Cohen did stress that Israel would supply humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and he apparently spoke with the Chief Rabbi Osman also on that issue. But what are you expecting from this new Israeli government besides that humanitarian aid?
Listen, we are grateful for whatever aid is given. Of course, in our situation, we are pleased to receive support, but you could not win the war with a humanitarian aid. We need the defensive means, at least to save the lives of our civilians, women and children, and we are asking the Israeli government for the last 10 months of war to provide us with the anti-missile and anti-drones, and the war is severe, and during the winter time it's even worse. For our public, I just came back from Kyiv. It is the electricity shortages, and it's a cold weather, and the people are trying to survive in very difficult conditions. So if by those defensive means, if we were going to be able to protect a few people's life, I think it's going to be very important, much more important than just humanitarian aid.
Right. The new Israeli government has now started a strategic dialogue with the Biden administration. What role perhaps you see in the U.S. in this equation?
In the U.S., I just met my U.S. colleague today, and we was discussing this issue.
Do you mean Thomas Snides,
Yes.
the ambassador to Israel?
Also, your strategic minister is in Washington,
Right,
D.C.
Ron Dermer.
So I'm sure he will receive enough information, and the war in Ukraine is one of the priorities of the Israeli government, as they announce, out of 3. So I assume it's going to be more than humanitarian aid at this matter. And again, we are asking about defensive weapon, and I very much hope we will receive it. What Americans thought that Israel have to be just on the right side of the history, meaning that we will win this war anyhow. Unfortunately, we're going to lose a lot of the civilians' lives. And this is what Israel can help us with, is to protect our civilians from these casualties. And especially when Iran came to the picture, I was absolutely sure that this military technical cooperation against Iran as our common enemy will be started with Israel pretty fast. Unfortunately, that didn't happen yet, but the dialogue is going on, and we do hope that Israel will change its position towards protective equipment to Ukraine in order to support our country in this very severe situation on the warfield.
Right. Let me just ask you, reports of fierce fighting in, of course, in eastern Ukraine, and of course the continued attacks, especially of these Iranian drones on Ukrainian cities and the infrastructure. How do you see the course of the war now going in the next couple of months?
Well, the Americans are making pressure on Iran in order not to provide Russia any more of those drones and missiles. And we will see whether that should happen. And Russia is experiencing the shortage of the missiles at the moment. So we are grateful we have not been attacked since the new year extensively, except of the war field or war zone. Mm-hmm. But we do understand that Russia have enough resources in order to move forward with the war, and we are ready for any scenario. So our government is working hard in order to receive enough offensive weapon, and you know that Europeans and Americans providing us with the infantry machines. Now we are about to receive the tanks.
Missiles which have been effective against Russia.
Yes, exactly. So we are getting stronger every day, and Russia instead is experiencing the shortages. So, and they don't have many alliances except of Iran, of course, and North Korea. So, and we are having most of the democratic world is staying behind us. So that give us the belief that we will be successfully overcoming this winter and the coming months, and we will be able to liberate our territories in a very nearest future.
All right, Ambassador Yevgen Korniychuk, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
On I-24 News.
Thank you.